It's Wild Wednesday. This is Lisa, the naturalist at John James Audubon State Park. Today I'm inside the Nature Center, which is located at the Audubon Museum. I like to call today's episode Slither and Slide, because I'd like to tell you a little bit more about one of my favorite animals to teach about, the snake. Let me introduce you to one of the snakes that we have here at our Nature Center. This is a prairie king snake. Now they're not found right here in Henderson, but they are a Western Kentucky snake. Now let's think about some of the information that we know about snakes. First off, they're a reptile. Their bodies are covered in scales. Their skin is very dry. It's not slimy. They're not like a worm. The other thing that's very important is that they are a cold-blooded animal. They are exothermic, which means they take on the temperature of whatever the environment is. So if it's a cool day, they're probably not going to be out moving around very much because they would be sluggish and slow. They need to bask and let the temperature of the sun warm up their bodies. So you'll often see them basking on a nice warm rock, for example. Now, from the way this one's all twisted around my hand, you would think that they don't have any bones in this body, but they certainly do. They have a spine which goes all the way down their body and ribs which connect with that spine too. They are very muscular, and they use those muscles and the scales on their body to help them move. And they can move quite well. They can be very quick. They can climb things. They can go up rocks. They can scale trees. It's amazing the places that they can go. Snakes play an important ecological role in our environment. Since they are hunters, they are an important part of the food chain. Depending on what type of species it is, they could be eating insects and worms, or fish and frogs. A lot of our snakes will eat rodents and birds, and some, like this one, being a prairie king snakes will actually feed upon other snakes. In fact, they can eat a venomous snake. They are immune to the venom. Snakes have very diverse skin colorations, and some of their color patterns are quite beautiful. If you take, for instance, this corn snake, not only do they have a bold pattern on top, but they have an intricate design on their belly as well. The skin coloration on a snake sometimes indicates what their behavior is. A mostly solid color snake with long stripes tend to be a snake that flees a predator. That a long stripe makes it so there's no reference point for a predator to attack, and so they're able to flee without being noticed. A plain colored snake typically has an active hunting strategy. Being plain colored, they can move up onto their prey without really being detected. There's no motion that's obvious. When you have some snakes which are very vividly patterned with color blocks and spots and stripes, they typically have an ambush style strategy of hunting because their patterns are made to help them blend into their environment so they can easily camouflage among sticks and rocks and things as they wait for prey to come by that they can surprise. Another fascinating thing about snakes is they go through ecdysis, which is a scientific name for shedding their skin. Now, snakes actually continue to grow throughout their lives, and their skin does not grow with them like ours does. Instead, their skin has only so far that it can go to enlarge before it becomes too tight, and they need to shed the outer layer. In order to do that, the inside of that outer layer actually liquefies, which helps to separate it from the other layer that's going to remain attached to their body. And then that outer layer, they will take their nose and maybe rub against a rock or a rough surface like tree bark, and it will usually split the skin somewhere near the mouth, and then they will peel out of that skin like you taking a sock off inside out. Now, as they continue to slide out of their skin, it does kind of make people a little nervous when they find a shed skin close to their house or something, because if it's a very large skin, that makes you think, oh my gosh, the snake is huge. The skin that's being shed is actually wrapped around top and bottom of each scale. And so as it separates from the body, it pulls away from the top and the bottom, which makes it twice the size. So when you find a shed skin like this one, not only is it probably wet and stretchy, remember it liquefies a little bit, and then it pulls away from each scale. That changes the length of the shed skin. Something else that's really interesting that you can observe from looking at a shed skin is the fact that snakes actually do not have eyelids that blink, so they can't close their eye. In fact, they have a scale that covers their eye like a permanent eyelid, except it's clear, and that is an eye cap, which protects their eye. But when they shed, that scale also comes off, and you can see on this particular shed here that the eye cap is still intact there, to give you an idea of how that acts like a little pair of goggles to protect the snake. Kentucky actually has 33 species of snakes. Here are snakes that I've seen at Audubon State Park. Black king snake, garter snake, black rat snake, a juvenile rat snake, copperbelly water snake, and a worm snake. Out of that 33, 4 of them are venomous. The timber rattlesnake, pygmy rattlesnake, cottonmouth, and copperhead. So chances are, if you encounter a snake as you're out hiking in the forest or in the wetland or in your own backyard, you're probably not going to come across a venomous snake very often. But just like other wildlife, give them some space, give them some respect, and they'll leave you alone. Join me again next week for another edition of Wild Wednesday.